So, hello, first of all. And second, this will be the introduction video of my next string of videos, which will be like inclusion and representation in media and entertainment and general employment and jobs. Because I think obviously there was a great deal of, well, I don't want to say a problem, it was an absolute clusterfuck when, your skin colour was a passport. And then now I think they've tried to fix it and fucked it up. So hopefully greater minds than mine will be working on this and they'll actually come to some reasonable conclusion in the next century or so. But for now, here are my modest thoughts on the subject. So I'm going to try and look into all of this. Obviously the big ones, films and telly and what have you, showed an ex-actor of X ethnicity or religion or what have you play character B, stuff like that. I think there's a lot to look into for that. I certainly don't think it's as sweeping as, just hire anybody. The other one is just, I do think the current what's the word? Forgotten the bleeding word, haven't I? The current climate, there you go. The current climate on this issue is just, it's unnecessarily causing resentment. It's not, we're not solving problems. We're putting plaster over the damp patch. It's gonna come undone. I was mentioned in the last video, there was a fella in the pub, and as I walked past his chair, he just said, "And I hired a black guy," and everybody went shh, shh, shh. And like, I'm thinking, why can't you just why must it be silenced? You've got to address problems like that, not shove them under sweep them under the table. Not, he's going to be thinking that way from now on, and he's either going to get louder and more obnoxious about it, or just smolder in silence until it finally comes to a head, and then he'll have a prejudice in him unless it's addressed, unless somebody comes out and tries to appeal to him, shows him something, for whatever reason. It's not helped by people who are demanding preferential treatment on any side. I am very aware that, like, white people, for lack of a better term, and you all know who I refer to, everybody, and I'm British, we were the worst at it. Like, we have demanded and expected preferential treatment for centuries. It's which is one of the perks of owning an empire, I suppose. And we've had an incredibly narcissistic and arrogant approach, and of course this is on the way out. But I think what's going to have to replace it is going to have to be very carefully done, because it is looking a bit like, well, you did it so we can do it now. It's as ridiculous as two people setting each other's cars on fire. It's so I want to look at that. I want to look at, like, employment as well. What should and shouldn't be the law in these instances. I know that's been briefly covered by the likes of Jordan Peterson and others, but I'll cover them again because, hey, I've got 15 minutes. I'll look into perhaps in what jobs you have to hire somebody of a certain ethnicity or belief system. Like, I remember I remember I was reading David Goggins' books, and they specifically told Goggins to go out and recruit black people. Well, not like that. They wanted somebody that would get more black people in. He could still recruit white people. They didn't say turn away anybody who's not the same colour as you, mate. And that was because one of the reasons was not inclusivity. I got it out. Not just inclusivity, but that they were operating in theatres where a black-skinned person would stand out less than a white-skinned person. And then you could, of course, carry that on to there would be certain environments where a woman would raise less attention than a man, or a woman would be a much more appropriate choice to do that specific job. I can't think of them now. It's the same with religion. You think religion's not really a thing, but you wouldn't want a Christian pastor working in a mosque, would you? And fortunately, it's never come about that that's going to happen. But I mean, yeah, what about the secretary? It's a funny old job, and people are. I want to sit down and say that I don't like to tell people how to go on. I really don't, because I don't think I've got all the answers, and a lot of this stuff I haven't and never will try out. I'm never going to be hiring people for a film, and I have to say, like, if you are making a film, I would never tell you who to put in the film. Or, well, unless you say, "So, Paul, what do you think of this?" I go, "Oh, Idris Elba will be good at that." It's advice. I would phrase it, if I was doing something, if I was in charge of some form of project, God forbid, this would be how I would strive to choose people to work in that project, whether it be a entertainment or just a labouring job or some sort of presentation. I have taken part in presentations in the past, and it's interesting to know when I just sit here and think about it. It was a capoeira presentation, and we did this sort of Brazilian folk dance with it, and I caught all kinds of mick, because the first time we did it, you get sort of like Brazilian Morris dancing, but it was, we're in England. The guy who was teaching me was Brazilian, and so of course everybody who did it, and there was 4 men and 4 women who did it, because that's the tradition of the dance. Yeah, it's equal parts man and woman. Well, I say that's tradition. That's what we got told to do. I don't know if it's a tradition. I'm just sitting here talking. But so it was 4 women, 4 men, but we were all English or European, because where was he going to find 8 Brazilians? But we did all that, and I got the mickey taken out of us, because A, the guy who took the pictures wasn't a very good photographer, and it looked like a satanic ritual, and B, we had to take our shirts off, and no, I'm not going to show you the pictures. I remember a guy at work, actually, he was looking at the picture, he goes, "Where's the goat?" And you're like, "Oh, fair enough." And then the second time we did it, the one that I really got some mickey for was he got all of the traditional costumes made out of straw and grass and that, and we had to wear these, and it and there was so of course somebody took a video, it was an old VHS video back in them days, and then of course I made the mistake of showing me parents and me brother, and I never heard the end of it. Anyway, I digress. So that would be an interesting one. I suppose in this one we could also cover cultural appropriation, whatever the hell that means. That'd be a good one for me to figure out. I don't know what's the matter with getting your head in dreadlocks and eating different food. I don't know. I think a lot of what goes on these days when people put stuff on Facebook and you're like, that's ridiculous, it's meant to sound ridiculous. It's somebody is trying to make somebody else look bad, and Both sides are at it. There's not a shadow of doubt in my mind that people who are rightish leaning are saying pro-left stuff, but in such a stupid and arrogant way that it's meant to make the left look stupid and arrogant. And I'm pretty sure the odd lefties at it as well. Because every group needs a twat. I mean, if you're in a group without a twat, it's you. And I nicked that from a book. I didn't make it up. I can't remember the name of the book. So yeah, I'm going to get stuck into that in the new year. It's New Year's Eve now. It's not a bad day. I only thought to do this when because I got through my workload for the day fairly quick, and I'm away out now to see some mates, buy some beer, and have my last drink of the year before I go dry for a couple of days. I go back to my normal regime, which I mentioned, of only drinking at the last weekend of the month. So, because of Christmas and New Year, I've indulged somewhat, we'll say. But anyway, I hope that sounds interesting to everybody. I hope that Christ we can get through this without everybody kicking off. I don't really want to tell you my stance on everything now because I don't have a stance on anything now. I think what's worried me is everybody's been complaining about Anne Boleyn, or they put her in a period drama and they had a black lady player, and everybody was like, they were saying they were subverting expectations, something like that, and everybody said it was political correctness gone mad. And a lot of people had a lot about stuff to say about it, and I never watched it because, I thought it was a bit silly. But then I sat there and I went, well, hang on a minute. I watched Exodus, and I think it was Russell Crowe, was it? It was him, or it was a white actor playing an Egyptian, and I'm like, well, why didn't I notice that? Hold up a minute. And that worries me that I've noticed one way and not the other. So I need to go back and look at myself for that one. And then you think back, because I was guilty of actually saying at one point, I remember that I said, yeah, but you've got to go back to, everybody mentions when John Wayne played Genghis Khan. He was built for that role, wasn't he? But everybody's saying that's a bit racist, and I'm like, yeah, it was racist. It was a racist time. It was the 60s. You're pushing it a bit if you've got to go back 60 years to find something to complain about. But then I'm thinking you don't. You just have to go back to whenever fucking Moses came out, or Exodus, or whatever they called it, and then they had Noah, and they've had all this biblical stuff, and everybody's always whiting the biblical stuff, isn't it? Always. So I'll have a bit of a look at that, shall we? And on that, oh God, shall I leave it on 13 minutes? That's, oh fuck it. It's just nonsense.